So thank you everybody and welcome to our quickfire presentations for day 2. So coming up we've got 3 different people who are going to be presenting some of the work that they're doing. First up we have our own Hugh Gormley of Griffith fame. Hugh is our educational producer and lead of our Guava lab and does amazing things, and he's going to be having a look at collaboration in the XR space. So over to you, Hugh.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks so much. And now, are you all seeing my slide or my video at the moment? I've never done this before, so
we've got your slides.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I really wanted to talk about collaboration in XR at this year's A New Reality because I've kind of had my head turned to Mozilla hubs and things like alt space and whatnot, and it's it's a very natural native thing to do with VR and more broadly with XR as well. But to put a headset on and for you to put a headset on and have us go to a third place, i.e. in the cloud, and have a meeting is a really natural use of the technology. And we've actually kind of been doing it for years. You've only got to look at any multiplayer game to realize that people are now in those platforms, lifelong friends, going on missions, doing things together and talking about more than just the game. And so when we focus on the collaboration as the main part, we bring that into the fore. So one thing that I want to kind of bring to our attention in my thinking is that we don't necessarily need to duplicate the classroom or a conference room for that matter when we make a collaboration space or choose one. For example, talking about the game thing, I have a regular meeting with one of our colleagues where we shoot the breeze, much like going on a long walk to get you thinking, but we shoot the breeze by shooting zombies and chatting about the state of everything XR. Putting students or our colleagues into a virtual lecture theatre with a whiteboard at the front and a door at the back is not necessary. We can think to make anything that we want to at this point. Now, sorry, I'm just opening my notes on my iPad as well, so I'm not getting lost. Yeah, for example, I saw a great dentistry example the other day, and it was actually built in Mozilla hubs and by a very non-tech person, where they wanted originally to do a dental clinic, but instead they came up with a room which kind of looked a bit like a dentist, and they had put in all the different teeth, imported them all as 3D models, and then met their students in that space, and the mouth was bigger than anybody in the room. But because all of those teeth were spawnable, the student could walk up and pick up the tooth out of the mouth, and they went around the mouth and talked about the names of all the different teeth. Something that we just kind of couldn't do in the real world, and in fact is a more esoteric kind of use of that technology. So we've got some issues with the traditional media as well, of course. Someone mentioned to me yesterday Zoom fatigue, having to look down the barrel of a camera and appear to be attentive. If you can see my camera right now, I'm kind of acting that out. When we actually meet in real time, we tend to look out the window or look away. It's not the it's kind of tiring for us as mammals to look other people seemingly in the eye and also pay attention for that whole for the period of a meeting. We've got embarrassing backgrounds. We don't really have to deal with those in VR, although I have tripped over the cat a couple of times. And we've got one speaker at a time in Zoom or Teams like now, if we all spoke at once, it's very difficult. In a VR space, we can move apart, and because the audio is spatial, we can have multiple conversations. We can overhear people's conversations much more like the real world. We've also got unnatural interfaces here. So whilst the technology for 2D chat is getting better, and I'm not against it, by the way, but drawing and kind of indicating, pointing to things is not straightforward. And also we've got to take notes about the decisions that are made in the meetings. I wanted to kind of make the example that if anybody here has ever built a house or managed a major project, which the latter I'm sure we've all done at some point, we might go in and inspect our building. In the old days, you take photos of the things that needed to be changed, and you might get together with the builder and say, look, this is wrong and this is wrong, and you say, look, the fire exit on level 2 hasn't got a sign on it, and then they've gone and put one on level 3. So difficulties there. Then we can currently, with the Teams platform, I believe, bring in 3D models so we can look at the model of the building and indicate where changes need to be made, so that we all have a good understanding that this is supposed to be on level 3. But with virtual collaboration, I can see coming over the horizon very quickly a future where we've got an up-to-date scan of the building, and you walk through it virtually with the builder, and you actually mark up the model in real time, saying this fire exit needs to be here. There is no confusion about where those things go, and it's not a note that can be translated into a different, that can be misunderstood. Okay. Well, one thing about VR collaboration, though, that's tickles me, because the other day I had to tell a bunch of colleagues to behave in VR, and they took it really well. But I think it even might have come from last year's A New Reality conference, where someone mentioned the need to learn to behave in VR, that it's a new technology, and we've got kind of natural knowledge about how to behave in the real world, that we don't speak when someone else is speaking, that we don't just get up and walk around the room in the middle of a presentation. And these things are going to kind of develop over time. So oh, I've got a toddler in the back of my shot. Callum, can you go into the other room, please? Thank you. Sorry, everyone. Hi, buddy. Bye-bye.
You've single-handedly become the man from SBS or the
Yes,
CBS News, Hugh.
Let's go back to the slide before. And
you are embodying that.
It's like I set it up to do it.
Timing was impeccable.
Yeah. And speaking about behavior as well. So we need to learn to in VR, that a lot of those norms need to be ported across. A great example was last year at Elevate XR at QUT, we set up a collaboration space in Microsoft Hubs, and then Mozilla Hubs, sorry, shared our desktop to the room, had it all perfectly set up, and then we had 20 odd people come and join us in the room. Some of us were in the room, some of them were in the room, some of them were actually remote, and the first thing they did was they walked over to the wall, grabbed the desktop, and hoiked it and threw it out the window. So we need to have patience, I guess, as we go into a world with more and more virtual collaboration, because it's going to take a while. It's something that shouldn't kind of hold us back from trying it, though. Okay. So there's lots of different options that are coming onto the market, of course. And I'm sure you've seen some, and if anybody wants to chime in a couple, please go for it. I'll go open the chat as well. We've got the ubiquitous VR chat. I've never even been into it, but it's kind of very Second Life-y avatars, and I've put the picture of VR chat there for comedic effect. Mozilla Hubs, of course, which we've set up our own instance of for this conference, to give people a taste of the collaboration component, what it's all about. AltSpace is a very slick product from Microsoft. Spatial, I saw in someone's slide yesterday where it was talking about the HoloLens, and allows a kind of mix between the AR and the VR worlds. Engage is a teaching platform, very much focused on teaching. Big screen, and I even put YouTube up there because YouTube has a viewing room now. So if you go to YouTube VR, you can put a screen in front of you, but then you can actually invite friends there. And one of the things that people do a lot is they sit around and show each other the videos and things that they've seen on YouTube, right? So I thought I'd add that in there as well. So there's lots of different purposes between very public things like VR chat and private lockdown spaces like for productivity only, like Spatial or Engage. Anyone want to add any other ones? Yeah.
5 minutes, Hugh.
Oh, thank God. Okay. So what we're looking for in a VR platform, and what I'm hoping that you're all looking for in a VR platform, is that it has to be productive, basically. Platforms like VR chat and big screen kind of suffer a little bit from having a public face. Most people's experience of them is going there and coming across things that nobody should ever see, or being insulted. You can set up private rooms in both of those platforms, but they take them out of the kind of realms of being platforms that anybody wants to use. Platforms like Engage are very hard to set up your own room the way that you want it. AltSpace is a very, very slick platform that Microsoft just spent a lot of money buying. Unfortunately, there's no Android or Mac platform or browser-based platform. And so that's the problem. We've got to be able to give everybody access, whether they've used VR or not. If you want to include AR users, people on the HoloLens, for example, you'll need to consider Spatial, IO. All of the above require an app download. And so the reason we chose Hubs is because we have access control. I'll go on to the next slide. It's ubiquitous, it's everywhere, you can use it on a browser. It relies on open standards, and it can be used on everything from an iPad to a desktop machine to a Quest or a cardboard. Now, I'm not specifically talking about Hubs because it doesn't necessarily meet all of these criteria, in fact, but this is what I think we're looking for in a good platform, is that we can bring in elements, videos, 3D models, sound from open platforms like YouTube, Sketchfab, Google Poly, so on and so forth. They're lightweight as well. We don't have to download an app. That's often a big problem. The reason why people won't do things is that they don't have the space on their phone, or their account's not set up correctly, and so we have to keep that in mind too. And another element that we've started to get into is using AI bots and being able to record the session and having them be, and I'm trying to coin a phrase here, flexable. Will that catch on? just use it today, everybody later. I thought it was a really cool term. Anyway, so what kind of things can you do in VR Collab that we're not thinking of yet? Prototyping sessions, handing around a 3D model and everybody looking at that model together, passing it from one to the other, being able to scale it up, make changes, actually annotate the model in real time by drawing on it. For us in the education sector, digital cadavers and microscope pre-labs, not necessarily replacing the classroom as a whole, but getting students to go and use get to grips with the techniques before they actually come to campus, potentially replacing it sometimes, but also giving them a tool to use to revise with. Okay, I spoke about the building process inspection. If you look on Leica's website, they make laser scanners, and they're now putting wall mountable laser scanners so that as a project goes through its life, they're scanning it constantly. So much like a kind of a backup on your computer, you can go back to any period in time and see how that building changed. So you can imagine that we can take that model and use that as the environment for our collaboration, and then, like I said, walk through it with the builder. Another great use for it is actually student staff lounge. I don't mean to press upon this too much, but when we had the COVID thing breaking out, we suggested using VR as a student lounge, just to let people come in and talk with each other to find out what information they needed, and then they could use it to find from each other, maybe a little bit of novelty value. But we have a Monday morning coffee meeting as well, just so that we can keep connected. And one thing with Teams is that only one person can talk at a time. Now, we've got some big talkers. I might be one of them. And you notice that I try to include everybody else. But if we're actually meeting in our kitchen, different groups would go to different sides of the room. They might overhear conversations, they join together again for a second, and that's something that you can really do with VR and you can do with your students. I think some of the other ones there are kind of obvious. Yeah, 1 minute. Okay, I think I've only got one more slide. Some of the savings are pretty obvious as well. If we're going to conferences, there's an environmental cost and a financial cost and productivity cost. So that they're not to be lost. Well, I think we're all having a pretty good conference here as well, and we all get to go home in our standard traffic. Now, I did want to show you this as well, which is an example of a new technology that I've seen too, called Spaces VR, which is a load of fun. And what it does is actually plugs in, rather than being the platform itself, it uses Microsoft Teams and allows you to appear in Teams in VR. Now, there's some great advantages to that, being able to position the camera where you want, being able to import a 3D model and manipulate that, but not lose your audience because they're still in a platform that they understand. Guys, I'll leave it there. Thanks for listening. And if there's any questions, let me know.
So we've got a couple of minutes for questions. So if anyone's got anything, feel free to take the mic, or you can ask via the chat. Does anyone have anything?
It's all good.
I think you were covering it in your pre-presentation conversation with Bill anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
But remembering as well that Hugh's going to be kicking around. So if you do have questions afterwards, you can post them through the channel, and Hugh will be able to answer those for you as well.
Or I'll be in Mozilla Hubs ready to collaborate.
Cool. Thanks you,
everyone.
Hugh.
Cheers.